watch that recording with your ears if you go to the podium.
I didn't do anything.
Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the many years ago started Labour Council debates. For all elections, we try to have a debate for all of the elections. So tonight, we have 4 candidates with us. The Conservative candidate sent his regrets saying he was already attending 3 debates and that was enough. So,
Sorry, can you repeat that?
pardon me?
The last comment, I didn't hear that.
He said he was already attending 3 debates and that was enough.
Oh, okay, thank you.
So, sorry, I'll try to speak a little louder. And so tonight I'd like to thank the Labour Council as a group for organizing it and getting us all ready for this. And I'd really like to thank the candidates who are attending. I think that it's part of the democratic process that we all have a chance to talk to them and ask the questions that we want and make an informed decision when we get out to vote. So thank you very much for coming, the 4 of you. I'd also like to thank Kathy Poirier, who is the district officer for the Ontario Secondary School Teachers of this area, and she will serve as moderator for the debates. So I will begin by offering a line acknowledgement, and then after that we can get ready for the business of our meeting. The Cornwall District Labour Council acknowledges and thanks the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe people of this territory and other First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people residing on this land for sharing your ways so that we may come together in a good way. Beyond the land acknowledgement, we encourage all non-Indigenous peoples on these lands to learn the treaties and their stories, to support the struggles of the peoples whose lands we are on, and to celebrate the achievements of the various First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. I pass the mic to Kathy, and she'll explain how we're going to run the meeting.
Thank you, Louise. Make sure we have microphones in the right spot. So, this evening, with our 4 candidates, we are going to follow the procedure of each candidate will be given 5 minutes to do an introduction and in the order that they are seated, that was randomly selected as they wandered in. We apologize, Sarah, you were last.
That's
to
okay.
get your paper, so you sort of were voluntold where you were to be. The order will be federal NDP candidate Mario Leclerc, followed by federal Liberal candidate Sarah Good, who will be followed by federal Libertarian Carl McKinnon, and last but not least, our 4th candidate will be federal Green Party candidate Gordon Kubinek. After the 5-minute introductions, there will be an open question period from our audience, where currently Elaine McDonald has our microphone, and if you could indicate that you have a question, Elaine will make her way to you. You may address a question to the candidates, all in a general question, or specifically to one candidate. Candidates will be given 2 minutes to respond. If it is a specific question to one candidate, the candidate who has the specific question will have 2 minutes. Other candidates may elect to have a minute of response as well. This will go on until 7:30. At 7:30, we will bring it back to our order of candidates, and there will be a 5-minute concluding discussion, conversation. Each of the candidates, again, will be given 5 minutes to share their closing thoughts with our group this evening. Hopefully that is clear. Gordon.
Just a quick,
Gordon,
I'm
ask away.
assuming usually when we've done this, if it's 1, 2, 3, 4, it then reverses at the end. Usually what we do.
Perfect.
And
The answer to that is yes.
And at the 30-second left mark, Bob, for right there, the timekeeper will give you.
So we have Bob, who is our lovely timekeeper. We take 5 minutes, with the 5-minute introductions. When you get to minute 4, Bob will raise the yellow rectangle. And at the 5-minute mark, he will flip to red, and we will thank you, and we will ask you to then end your presentation to the audience. Similarly with answers to questions from the audience, we'll use similar structure of yellow, red, thank you, next candidate, just to keep conversations moving. So, Without further ado, may we introduce our first candidate, Mr. Mario Leclerc.
Good evening. Do I need the microphone?
Yes.
Yes, I do. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, the Labor Council. It's a great honor to me to be among you tonight because this is my second time running in the SDG. I ran in 2011 under Jack Layton leadership. It was a great experience and we had a great turnout. I so enjoy it, so I decided to give it another try, right? Why not? So the NDP approached me and we came to decided, okay, we're going to give it another try. And si vous avez des questions aussi en français pendant la présentation, gênez-vous pas, je suis parfaitement bilingue. J'ai fait mon débat à Alexandria complètement bilingue. Donc les gens apprécient d'abord parce que sont nouvellement dans notre circonscription. Et il y a beaucoup de francophones là-bas. Et ils sont préoccupés par le français. D'autres choses aussi, mais par le français, ils étaient avec Prescott Russell. Donc it's a big concern of them. So I'm glad that I could be part of that. I could give them a choice. If they decided to vote for Francophone, hey, so be it. I'll be more than happy, right? Okay. Going to the platform, the NDP has, we're going to invest close to $10,000 to help our people to weather the storm. Because the tariffs, it's hard on people. We're going to also allow give the wage subsidies for those industry and folks, workers that are impacted by the tariffs. Steel, aluminum, soft lumber, they name it. There's so many. And unfortunately, no one can control Mr. Trump. But we can control how we can help people, and we will. And this is one of the, many people are not aware of the platform, the NDP. That's why I focus on this, on Cogeco debate. I did with the North Glengarry debate as well. I want to make sure people know that we're there for the everyday people. We want to expand, it's always been an issue with the NDP. We want to expand the public transit in urban and rural communities. We've been talking about for years, decades, I would say, and our goal is to electrify transit by 2030 to cut emission as well. There's a component there of clean energy. We want to help the small business as well. We're going to give them a maximum fee for maximum 1% for the transaction they have. Transportation, going back to transportation. We want to provide long-term funding for transportation. Public service is not a privilege for us. Folks in Cornwall and surrounding communities are frustrated by the lack of reliable options, and I want to change that. The federal NDP has long supported permanent funding for public transit system, and I'll advocate for that kind of stable, long-term support in Ottawa. I'd also like to see a real commitment to restoring and expanding intercity transit, like Via Rail, regional bus services, so that rural communities are no longer left out. This is the kind of policy I will champion if I have the honor of representing this riding on April 28th. Better transit isn't just good for the environment. It's good for equity, affordability, and the quality of life. The NDP will stop big corporate landlord from buying up affordable homes. It's about time we end this. We restrict sales to individual, non-profits, municipalities, agency, and co-ops. We want to inject $16 billion to build 3 million affordable homes by 2030. Again, we want to use the federal land to build up over 100,000 rent control homes by 2035. stronger rent protection, to stop renovictions, and price gouging. Thank you.
We will now call on Liberal candidate Sarah Good.
Good evening, everyone. Bonsoir. Sego. My name is Sarah Good, and I am proud to be your Liberal candidate in the newly expanded riding of Stormont-Dundas Glengarry. First of all, I'd like to give a big thank you to the Labour Council for hosting this important debate, and to the workers, organizers, and community leaders who continue to contribute to this region. Your voices and your concerns and your work are the backbone of SDG. And I'm here to represent you, not just during this campaign, but in the halls of Parliament. I'd like to take a moment to offer a moment of condolence and reflection on the life of the Honourable Ed Lumley, who passed away earlier today. I was very fortunate in my early years on council to be invited to meet with Mr. Lumley to speak to him about my thoughts for our community and about his long tenure of experience fighting for our region, and what a privilege that has been. I'm also grateful to you for being here tonight. While we know that the leaders are currently in Montreal participating in the French language debate, so we'll all have to watch that on replay later tonight or tomorrow morning. Je viens d'ici, deeply rooted in Eastern Ontario. I'm a mother, I'm a city councillor, and I've spent most of my career working in nonprofit. I'm someone who understands the dignity in labor and the dignity in life. Over the past 2.5 years on City Council, I've fought for affordability through vacancy taxes. I've supported small businesses in efforts to keep the licensing fee down. I've championed reform on social housing and worked to bring more transparency to government every day, being accessible to the people of this community. And I always get a surprise shock when I actually answer my phone. That's because I believe that leadership should serve people first, and I aim to be accessible and transparent in everything that I do. My philosophy has always been to leave things better than I found them. That means standing up for fair wages, stable employment, union rights, and safe workplaces. Not just in speeches, but in legislation, in funding, and in federal support. This election isn't about slogans. It's about who will fight for the people of SDG and who's had a chance to deliver. Under Mark Carney, the Liberals are committed to real worker-first economy. And that means investing in skilled trade apprenticeships, in our public healthcare system, and in a housing strategy that has not been seen in decades. We'll strengthen Canada by building up workers, not cutting their supports. We're also proposing bold action in agriculture, because SDG's rural economy depends on it. And I've heard loud and clear that our support programs need to reflect today's challenges. My campaign isn't just about numbers, it's about people. It's about the mother in Cornwall trying to afford childcare. I've been that. The trades worker in North Dundas who wants a fair pension. It's about the young grad in South Glengarry wondering if they'll ever be able to afford a home. And the Akwesasne elder advocating for access to telehealth and safety on our borders. They all deserve to be heard. I believe in the power of public service. I believe in the power of people who show up and do their work. That's what unions are about. Unions make work better for everyone. You raise the level of well-being for each of us. That's what our teachers, our healthcare workers, our builders, and our farmers do every day. After having an MP in opposition for nearly 6 years, we've had, actually more than that if you count our previous MP, we've had no trade votes, no action on healthcare, no funding brought home for SDG, and votes continually against expanding of childcare, seniors benefits, and the like. I won't make that mistake. If elected, I will advocate inside a likely Liberal government. Thank you.
I would like to now call upon the Libertarian Party of Canada candidate, Carl McKinnon.
Thank you to the Labor Council for giving me a chance to speak tonight, to address the public about what it is the Libertarian Party is all about and the kind of things that we can offer voters. As you may know, my name is Carl McKinnon. I'm the nominee for the SDG riding. I have spent a few years living in Cornwall. When I was a student here at St. Lawrence, I studied marine engineering, instrumentation and controls. I remember living here during a time that was very difficult, very similar to the one we're going through now. At that point, free trade had been announced, and many of the plants, I'm sure most of you can remember, many of the plants here in Cornwall closed and moved their operations south. It's an interesting time now because we're on the heels of a government which has spent a lot of money on projects which have gone nowhere, and we're in economic turmoil. As a Libertarian candidate, one of the pledges I'm making is that I'm not going to take a salary. I'm going to work for you for free. I have 3 pieces of legislation in mind which I'd like to introduce to Parliament because I'm concerned about how our money is being spent. The first piece of legislation would include recall for candidates or for members of Parliament who are basically acting in bad faith and not performing the duties which are so important to us as a member of society, the duties of a member of Parliament. If the public feels by petition that a member of Parliament is not operating the way that they should, then perhaps we can trigger something along the way of a by-election or some other device to see whether or not the candidate, whether the member of Parliament should stay in office. The second piece of legislation I'm hoping to introduce is something which prevents the government from spending money on big-ticket items. We've seen too many projects announced, too many checks being cut, and absolutely nothing has been delivered. Most of what we're experiencing now as a society is a result of severe economic malfeasance and mismanagement. We've probably gone through about $800 billion with no traceability or no meaningful results. And that's completely unacceptable. It's one of the things I feel so strongly about. If you break that down on a person-by-person basis, it works out to about $20,000 for every man, woman, and child in Canada. So it's not a laughing matter. Pieces of legislation that would restrict the government from spending more than $40 million on infrastructure or other corporate welfare projects or whatever it is they come up with without public approval. You have to seek public approval before having the keys to cut a check. By the same token, I would like to have another third piece of legislation. And this list is not exhaustive. There are many things that could be reformed in Parliament. The third piece of legislation would include likewise seeking public approval for foreign aid. We've spent billions of dollars on foreign aid, and the government has never really asked anybody whether or not they would approve of such things. We've given billions of dollars to a war. Even though we might feel that we have a moral obligation to support certain causes and certain events outside of Canada, we should give the public a chance to respond on whether or not they want to spend the money to do it. Thank you for listening. I hope you appreciate the need for reform in this country. Thank you.
And last but not least, I introduce Green Party of Canada candidate, Gordon. Gordon.
Thanks very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I had my first event here in STG in this room. It was about, 3 weeks ago, right? About that. So it's great. I've really had a great time being here. This week is Holy Week. And on Friday, the Christ is going to say to the crowds, "Forgive me, for they do not know what they do." It seems to me that nothing's really changed in a few thousand years. We're trashing the planet that nurtures us, and all evidence is that we're going to not stop doing it. So Mother Earth, please forgive us, for we seem not to know what we're doing. But the fact is, we actually do know what we're doing, and we're still doing it. I find that very, very disconcerting. And that's why with the Green Party, I'm going to actually spend today doing something that I've never done. I'm actually going to be talking about the environment the whole time. So enjoy. I've done this 6 times. I've been in Carleton every other time. I've debated with Pierre multiple times. And I have this vision that we're on the Titanic and we're going along, we're having a great time. We're, having important discussions about important things if you're only on the Titanic. But there's an iceberg out there that we seem to be ignoring because we're having either a good time or squabbling about which music to play. That's where I'm coming from. A little bit about me, I'm a chemical engineer. And I then became a high school physics teacher. I live in Carleton, very close to the boundary. My wife came with me today, thanks very much, Karen. And I have 3 daughters, 2 of which live in British Columbia. I have a hobby farm. I did the typical hobby farm thing. Anybody here done a hobby farm? No? It's great fun. I did chickens and geese. I was a beekeeper for many years. We put on the solar panels. I'll tell you a fun little story. When I started this kit, my sister-in-law, who lives in Manitoba, she's a Mennonite, and she said, "Gord, you talk brilliantly, but you do nothing." And the Mennonites are big into actually doing something. So I said, all right. If I do something, will you listen to me? So I got an electric car, a little tiny smart car, used. I could afford it. My wife loved it. It was super cheap to run. And I put on solar panels. I did it, yes, it saves the planet, but you know what? I've actually made a lot of money. Okay, let's be quite clear. I'm an engineer, so I'm going to make saving the planet work for me at the same time. I was on oil, I live in the country, we did geothermal, we did all that stuff, and then I went back to her, and I said, "Will you listen now?" What'd she say? No. She still wanted to do what she wanted to do. I had stopped flying, I had stopped doing everything. The fact is, we people seem to be that as long as things are going well for me, I'm just going to keep on doing it. And that's what we're doing. And we know where that's going to end up. It's going to end up like what's happening right now with the tariff war with the U.S. That didn't, the extent to which that happened didn't have to happen. The free trade agreement, which I was there for, does anybody else vote in the free trade agreement way back when? Okay, great. It turns out that only 43% of Canadians voted for that. Most of us voted against free trade, but because of our flawed electrical system, we got stuck with basically becoming a vassal state for the Americans. That's what's happened. That's what shut down a lot of the companies here in Cornwall. Happened to me too. I was working in a pulp and paper mill in British Columbia. It's gone as well. Okay, so this was predictable, and it's all about, for me, is not being able to say, "I told you so." If John Turner, who was the Liberal at the time, who said, "Don't sign the free trade agreement," if we had listened to him, we could have said, "I told you so." If we would listen to the scientists who said the Titanic is just about to hit the iceberg, they wouldn't have to say, "I told you so," because the impacts of that are happening. Now, I know that this is absolutely zero on the radar, but I'm going to show you a graph that is trying to make the point. And so I know that, but I'm going to do it anyway. So I started out doing this great graph yesterday. I was with the farmers yesterday, and had this very complicated graph. And basically what it showed that the prices that they're getting for their crops is going down, but the prices that we pay at the store is going up. And they all went, yeah, exactly. Well, that's definitely not a good thing. And that has a lot to do with business as usual is not working for the little guy, because the little guy is always getting less. And the big guys who have all the money are making more. And that's something we want to change. Basically, it comes down to this. This is what I'm trying to avoid so we don't have an I told you so moment. We have, we're up.
Time is up.
Thank you very much, and look forward to hearing your questions.
So we'll now move to our audience question portion of our evening. If you have a question, if you raise a hand, Elaine McDonald will make her way over. If you could identify yourself with first name or however you wish to identify yourself, and direct your question at a specific candidate or all of the candidates in general, and we'll get through answers.
Hi, I'm Katrina Schroeppiger. My question pertains to disabilities. Currently, no party is committed to any plan this election to address the extreme poverty imposed on the disabled. Some might suggest that disabilities are a provincial problem, but the Liberal federal government did issue a change to provide credits for people who receive the disability tax credit. Everyone expected a more substantive program, since more than a third of the population living in deep poverty are disabled, and deep poverty is several $1,000s a year poorer than simply living in poverty. People with disabilities can't afford their disability-related medications, treatments, and supports when housing alone exhausts their entire income. That plan is criticized for being too restrictive and too little too late, since the cost of living increases within the time it took to implement that meager benefit has already outrun the benefit. Furthermore, because it's so restrictive, the majority of people living with disabilities cannot access it due to complex forms of criteria. So what will you, and I'm saying this to all four candidates, do to commit to real resolution to the deep poverty issue plaguing our disabled population? Thank you.
I'm going to defer to Elaine for just a moment. Elaine, what order had we planned for our responses to general questions? Elaine and Louise.
You could just go opposite way, and did you want the question to all the candidates?
I wanted to all.
Yeah, for all candidates, so should we start at the opposite end? We'll just keep changing directions. So, Gordon, if you have an answer.
She just asked, do I have an answer? And if we're up here, we always have answers. That's just how it goes. I have a good friend who's been with me with most of the day. He is disabled, and he's exactly in your situation. He's been ranting exactly like you have for several years. The Liberal Party is bringing an extra $200. But as you say, it's taken years and years to do it. And so I get where he's coming from. He's somehow living, just so you know what we're talking about here, he's living on $1,150 a month. And that he has to pay for rent. Now, he's lucky he had a family member help him get a house years ago when it was really cheap. And so he's able to manage. I was on disability as well. I was more lucky. I was a teacher, and I had disability as part of my pay. So I paid into a private disability fund. If I was elected with the Green Party, I would make, for people who are working while they're able to work, disability part of what you pay for, just like you pay for pension, just like you pay for employment insurance. So that way, everybody has private disability all the time. On top of that, right now, for the people who aren't in that situation, what we need to do is obviously increase it to match inflation and do the equivalent of a living wage. Once again, it's a typical thing. It's in partnership between the feds and the provinces because you get money from both levels of government. But it has to be there. It is normal. I know even if it's not lifetime, 1/4 of all Canadians will suffer from disability at one time or another. It's defined as more than 90 days. That happened to me as well. It's a very common problem and should be built as part of our safety net all the time. Thank you.
Carl.
To answer your question, I'm an advocate for raising the lowest bracket of tax. So people that have a problem with income security could expect to get a significant tax credit. By the same token, people that are employable should, they want to keep a lot more of their money. Those programs that we do have available, which provide for unemployment insurance, I would like to see that those are available for people in the same circumstance of disability for the long term. I think that would alleviate at least some income security. People would be able to have some money coming in so they can manage their lives and not be destitute. Thank you.
Sarah?
Thank you for your question. I think you bring up a really important point that many people have been talking about for a while, and like you said, it took a long time to bring in that increased supplement. So Gord mentioned $200 a month, that's gonna be effective in June. But is it fixing the problem? No. We understand that the amount that people who are on, we'll say permanent or temporary disability are receiving is not a living wage. It's not sufficient to cover the average rent, the average cost of food, et cetera. And so there has been a small increase. I will, within the Liberal Party, advocate for additional increases so that people can meet a basic standard of living to be able to survive. With that said, I think also the increases to pharmacare and understanding what kind of medications are medically necessary, so we're not putting an additional burden on people who are trying to live with a disability and who require, whether it be life-saving medications or medications that are necessary for them to function in their daily lives. Further to that, I think we need to work with provinces within each of the disability programs to ensure that if somebody with a disability is able to work and contribute to the workforce in some manner, that might not be every day, that might not be 40 hours a week, that we're not immediately clawing back on their disability benefits, so that they can contribute meaningfully to the workforce in the way that suits their abilities. I do think that is important, and I think it's something that many people with disabilities want to be able to contribute and don't want to be put in a position where they're having to have their disability benefits clawed back if they are able to take advantage of being a participant in the labor force. I do think there's a long way to go, and we're going to have to push for those benefits to increase, and I think people like you will be who I will be leaning on to listen to find out what it is that you need to make your life more manageable. Thank you.
Mario?
Oh, sorry. The NDP do understand the long way to go. We understand that ability to earn a living is substantially diminished, and we want to preserve the dignity. We're the only party that's proposing doubling the Canada disability benefits. We're willing to inject $4 billion right there. We have been discussing about those that are fortunate enough they want to participate in society and they want to work. We want to bring back the employment insurance back to 20 years ago. It was attacked substantially 20 years ago under the ruling parties, the Liberal and the Conservative, and we want to bring it back to 20 years ago. We want to, make sure we have that threshold of 320 hours, make it easier, making it higher, increase the higher rates for the beneficial, and get it easier to get benefits. Also, we're proposing, as you know, the GST breaks on many essentials. And again, that would help lower income bracket people. Also, I'm talking about bracket. I worked for Canada Revenue Agency for 10 years. We increased it from $15,500 to $19,000. That means, in simple words, that means the first $19 that you earn are no tax, federal. And this basically, this is our core of our party. We want to bring, poverty, and we believe that by doing this, we improve the society as a whole. Thank you.
Elaine is now looking to field her next question.
Come to you, Ruth. All right.
Kathy,
Yes.
start with Carl.
Go,
Yeah.
Carl. First,
and then
come
next
back.
question, we go, four, and the next one we go is 1, 2. Yeah, perfect. I've been standing things in. Sorry, we're doing logistics. We apologize for logistical pause. Go ahead.
Great, thank you. My name is Ruth, and my question revolves around religious organizations. So in most of our communities, religious organizations are the ones who built the first hospitals, the first schools, orphanages that took care of the soldiers who came home from the Great War, took care of the widows. They had the first soup kitchens and pantries for people. And even in this day and age, people rely on religious organizations to help them when they're in most need. So charitable work in Canada carried out by religious institutions involves tens of thousands of associations, including parishes, mosques, and synagogues. Until now, the government reimbursed part of the donations made by individuals to these organizations in order to encourage charitable activities within Canadian society. So my question is, with Liberal government seeking to propose changes under the clause 429 and 430, which is to revoke the charitable status of religious organizations, would you be for or against that? That's for everyone to be.
This is going to be for everyone, and just so that you don't have me in the middle, we'll just start with Carl, who will be followed by Sarah, who will be followed by Mario, who then will be followed by Gordon.
To answer your question directly, no, I wouldn't change it. Things are fine the way they are. I think they should stay that way. That being said, I know it's a dangerous trend in Canadian society, and it's not in keeping with our tradition, where we're bringing religion into Parliament, and Parliament is getting involved in the church. There's always been sort of a taboo that we would not do that, and I'd like to see that continue as well. The religious beliefs of people in Canada are so diverse that we're not going to find common ground in giving preference to one group or another. So we should continue the work of the church, continue to acknowledge the work of the church charities. They have done fantastic things over the years. But to make it specific for any particular group would be a mistake. Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Ruth. We actually had a similar question that came up at the agricultural debate last night. And I think it's a little bit of, it isn't actually what the Liberal Party is proposing is to revoke any status from religious charitable organizations. There has been discussion about this in particular in British Columbia. However, reviewing the way that we administer and that we approve charitable organizations is not a bad thing to have a review process occasionally so that we can ensure that there's transparency and that there aren't tax loopholes that are being taken advantage of for any kind of malicious purpose. So I'm absolutely in favor of maintaining churches and other religious organizations under the charitable status, so long as they're not advancing discriminatory practices. I think that's an important exemption in there. And we also need to ensure that as much as possible when we're looking at these organizations that are raising money for charitable purposes, that money is staying within our nation, within Canada, unless it is explicitly approved for, let's say, international aid, in which case that would be approved. What we don't want is, some organization raising money and then it immediately going overseas without any real oversight, and thereby becoming a tax haven. So I think it is important to examine those things, make sure that we're doing them in a way that is transparent and that is equitable. Thank you.
Like my colleague says, I'm for the status quo. What I would point out is, as a former Canada Revenue Agency, I would look at that. Any other issue as transparency, accountability. I mean, when you provide receipt, we check it out. It's an administrative job as any other organization would do.
But as far as we should just keep the status quo, and I don't see any issue with this on my part. I mean, we should promote the people that get involved in community and make dinner for people like Legion, like so many have attended in my events. I mean, this is the life of the community. Thank you.
I don't know if you know this, but when you donate to one of our political parties, you get 75 cents on the dollar back. And I think that's quite a big deal, and I wonder why charitable organizations don't get the same deal, because I wouldn't consider us charitable organizations. So what I would do is say, all right, if the political parties get 75 cents on the dollar, why wouldn't charity get the same deal? I don't see the same thing. It's all for the public good. There shouldn't be any difference. So you know what, if we want to do what we do, it should be the same thing. So I think it should be encouraged even more. The bigger reason for that is that, this thing looked out, that's a lot better. Another reason is we know that charitable donations are going down for things like the food bank, while demand is going up. So we need to even more than ever encourage and support that. On top of that, people joining any organization, whether it's church or the Kiwanis Club, everything you can imagine is going down. People aren't participating in it. They're just trying to get by, and they need every penny they get to pay their bills. They're feeling very, very stressed. The more that we can do through this tax structure to encourage charity, encourage supporting for people via tax breaks, to bring the social society, the social safety net, not the official government one, but the unofficial neighbors helping neighbors one, the more we can encourage that privately, the better we will all be. Thank you.
On to our next question.
My name is John Tambro, and my question relates to climate action. And so my question is, if elected, what actions will you and your party take to scale up efforts and accelerate the necessary changes to address the climate crisis and its effect on the ecosystem, the citizens, and the economy?
And we'll confirm this is for all candidates again.
Yes.
Perfect, and we'll be starting with Sarah and then moving down our line and finishing with Colin.
Thank you so much for the question, John. And I think that this is going to be something that will require a multi-pronged approach. First of all, strengthening the regulatory practices in Canada to ensure that we're not polluting our waters, that we're protecting our tree areas and our nature preserves. The Liberal government has announced that they're going to create a minimum of 15 new national parks this year, which will increase those protected areas. In addition to 10 new marine reserves. But environmental protection is something that we have to be very mindful of. We can't just look at economic benefit without looking at the broader picture and realizing what are the future implications of the decisions that we make. So if we can do kind of the carrot and the stick approach, where we're both penalizing those who are polluting and as well as rewarding those that are transitioning to cleaner energy practices, I think that is one step in the right direction. Diversifying our energy grid is going to be something that will help us move along that path. And there are opportunities that we know are available within our nation. I think unfortunately, or fortunately, the situation that we're facing with the United States has given us pause and made us look at how we can as a nation be more independent in terms of many things, but in terms of our energy grid in particular. And given, we have strong hydroelectric, I'm not necessarily the biggest proponent of nuclear, but I do think that it solves a lot of the carbon crisis that we have in terms of our emissions that we put out. So I think that, again, there are many different ways that we can approach this, both protecting natural landscapes as well as diversifying our grids and protecting our waterways. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. The NDP believe that the big polluters should pay for the, 'cause
the damage they are causing, basically. We will, the NDP will end the carbon tax, the individual carbon tax, but we're going to put the tax on the consumer and industry. There's no doubt about that. We also going to end the subsidy for oil and gas company. That would bring up the coffer $18 billion. We plan to retrofit millions of homes and to buy zero emission vehicle. We got a big plan, and we're committed to strong climate targets, including reducing emission by at least 50% by 2030. That's something I personally support. I also believe federal dollars should be directed away from fossil fuel subsidies and toward clean energy, building retrofits, as I mentioned, and create green job, good green job. If elected, I'll be a strong voice for climate leadership that puts people and the planet ahead of corporate profit. And again, the East-West electricity grid is a great idea. But this is a long term. Short term, we have to, in the Paris Agreement, we should at least looking towards this. That was kind of a let go for a while, so we should go back to targets as we used to be in the past. Thank you.
It's nice to hear a question like that. I really appreciate it. It's a graph I didn't use before. This is our current situation. It's called overshoot, when your population, consumption, and pollution goes over the limits of the planet to handle it. We're past it. And the question is, what's going to happen next? Well, right now it's looking like we're going to have what's called a collapse. That's where we're headed right now. So the issue is, do we do a pay me now, pay me later? The electrical grid, I do not think, I agree with the great idea. I don't think it's a short, long-term thing. I think we need to do it immediately to stop the pipelines. I know the pipelines are coming across. I've actually looked at the math of it. Oil is going down in price right now, and the tar sands needs just over $50 a barrel to break even. It's headed towards $55 because of international markets. We actually can't afford it because the current pipeline that we did at TMX was supposed to cost $5 billion private dollars, and it ended up costing $33 billion of your dollars instead. And that's what we're doing right now. It's not going to work. I agree, the tar sand subsidy has to go. That's your typical, capitalism for the poor and, socialism for the rich kind of thing. But we also need to compete with China. Right now, the tariff war we're having with the Americans, I think, will eventually be over. Trump will eventually disappear, and it won't be the same, but still, China is a big threat. We now have 100% tariff on Canadian farmers in the West because we put 100% tariff on their electric cars. They have an electric car for $13,000. Holy cow, man. What are you going to do about that? It does come down to money. The thing is, when you do renewable things smart, it actually costs less. But there's a lot of money up front, then you get the payback. And so our job as a federal government, we have the power of the bank to do low interest loans, to do things like everybody is going to replace their gas furnace with an electric heat pump. But we can use the power of the Federal Reserve and 0% interest rates to make that happen. Thank you.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I guess, one of the nice things about living in Canada is we have this beautiful natural heritage. We live in one of the most beautiful countries in the world. Having lived here and seen many other countries, we've got something special, and it is worth protecting. To that end, as Canadians, we're fortunate, and perhaps we need to have some kind of a social contract or some kind of discussion, a wide discussion, about what are the things we want to preserve, how we're going to do it, and how much are we willing to spend on it. There are a lot of voices. It would be nice to keep everything pristine and perfect, But of course, we have to make a living too. So that's definitely a very wide forum for everyone to have some say and some discussion. I would be happy to, I guess, to meet people and facilitate such a conversation. This could be something, an issue that could be put to a plebiscite, something where people could respond and mention what it is they would like to see and what they're willing to pay for. Thank you.
And just heading to our next question.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Bill, National Association of Federal Retirees. Here's the scenario, and the person's going to come involved with 3 to 4 years. I'm a senior. Sorry for those who aren't, by the way. What I see happening down south, potential recession, maybe possibly going up, I'm afraid. In the next 4 years, what are your individual governments going to be advocating as programs, policies, to make sure I continue to live in dignity, health-wise, income-wise, and housing-wise? So that's basically my question. How can you satisfy me as a senior when I see what's happening in the next 4 years that will put me at ease in those areas of income, health, and housing? Thank you.
So this question will be starting with Mario, and then we will go to Gordon, Carl, and finish with Sarah.
Thank you for the question. I missed your first name. Ton premier, ton nom, ton nom? Claude, bonjour Claude. Okay, merci pour la question. This is part of the social safety net, right? Canada Pension Plan, old age security, and I want just to bring a parenthesis about this one. The Conservative did talking that for hiking the age from 65 to 67 or even 69 years old. I always spoke against that since even my first time running, I did, because I totally disagree with that. Because if they increase it by 2 years or 4 years, that means that's going to cost $30,000 to $60,000 per couple, and this one, you know, I don't think the senior can afford that. And as long as I'm here, I will fight against that. That's for sure. Healthcare is also a big item for the NDP. You know, healthcare is not for sale, right? For sure. And we got to make sure this is not going. I'm sorry, but when I hear Mr. Carney a few days ago, he mentioned that he would balance the budget by cutting $43 billion. I'm kind of concerned as where he's going to get the money. He said the operating cost. Maybe Sarah can have rebuttal on that. That's no problem. I'm willing to discuss that. But this is a big item, and I don't want anybody to make sure they're talking about balancing the budget, both the conservative and the liberal. But where are they going to finance their cuts? You got to wonder, right? Can they be trusted? Also, the transfer payment for education. You don't stop learning when you get 65 or even 70. You continue learning, right? And I think the NDP is really concerned about this issue and really fighting backbone. And this is.
Thank you, Mario.
Thank you.
One of the things I think that's difficult for you is, you know, we say all these great things and what can we do, right? Even presuming one of us was elected, what you're really voting for, I would say, is you're voting for character. You're looking at the person and say, do they have the right head? Do they have the right heart that is for us? And are they true to their word? So think about that when you're doing that. You're seeing an implication of that right now. Pierre, who is the candidate where I live up in Carleton, looks like he's just about to lose his seat, which is absolutely shocking. We don't know for sure, it's still 2 weeks away, but holy cow. And why is that? character. People have decided that once they know them, so really, when you're looking at this, we can say the right things, it's about character. To respond to the question about character, we had our mothers, both of our mothers living with us for 10 years. And we said the best thing that we can do, and if we had the money to help them, and they helped us. They paid a bit of rent. We got that helped with our mortgage. They got a lot of benefit out of it. They were with us, obviously living at home with family is the great. So we would, for people who can't do that without government assistance, it would be wise for the government to support that kind of relationship. So it's not just a government program, but government assistance so that we can stand on our own 2 feet in dignity together. Thank you.
It's an interesting question. We've kind of arrived at that time and place in Canada where after 10 years of bad government, we're in deep trouble. People are feeling the pinch with income. Conditions that, are basically the broader part of society have worsened over the last 10 years. What I'd like to see happen is I'd like to see the lowest income brackets be raised so that people are not paying as much, if any, tax at all. We do need our support systems. I would not advocate for cutting any spending to those, the functional part of government, which is providing a good safety net for the trouble we're in right now. But I would advocate for cutting spending in other areas so that we can manage our government efficiently and not waste money that we could use for much better purposes, to restore some sense of harmony in Canada. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the question, Claude. It was great to meet you, and thank you for sharing the information that you have in regards to your advocacy work for seniors. I'm a little bit surprised by the comments by my colleague in reference to cutting the budget and that being on the backs of seniors. That has not at all been the message or the actions of the Liberal government to put this on the backs of seniors. If anything, there have been announcements made in order to protect retirement savings, such as the Registered Retirement Income Fund, reducing the minimum amount that can be withdrawn by 25%, increasing the guaranteed income supplement, making it easier for people to access their money when they need it for seniors. In regards to cuts to CPP and old age security, that is not at all the messaging that is coming from the Liberal Party, and I would certainly advocate to the contrary. We need to ensure that our seniors and our most vulnerable people are protected. Very important. You've worked your lives. You deserve to live in dignity just as much as anyone else. When it comes to healthcare, we know this is largely dictated by the provinces. However, under the Canada Health Act, we have the ability to make some changes in terms of, again, you talked about Obamacare and what kind of medications can be covered under that. But we also need to work to ensure that, again, we had spoken about earlier, breaking down those cross-provincial borders so that those who are educated and certified in the healthcare sector can practice across provinces, reducing the complications that people have in accessing healthcare services and making healthcare more available to more people. Again, there was a huge announcement that was made in regards to federal investment into housing. We're talking prefab modular housing so that we can build that at a rapid, accelerated rate and in an affordable way. And in terms of the income supplements that are relied upon by seniors, this is absolutely something that is of deep concern to the Liberal government and something that I personally would advocate for. My colleagues also brought up trust. I look around this room and frankly, I'd say I know at least 2/3 of the people in here. I live a block up from here, at 2 blocks really, but this is my neighborhood. This is where I come from. And I think, when you think about trust, you have to see who your neighbors are. Thank you.
Arlene is heading to her next question.
Good evening. Thank you you all for putting your names on a ballot. Some of us have done it as well. And we always appreciate that there are people with great ideas who want to take part in the political system in this country. I've got a question that's kind of a wide-ranging question, and it's sort of, Sarah was just talking about it. I'm concerned about people in our economy who are underemployed, perhaps because they're new Canadians who just arrived, who have qualifications that aren't being met, new immigrants, refugees who've come to this country. They're going to need language training. They're going to, need to find out about the culture and make sure that, their qualifications can be utilized here. And one thing that happened to me a number of years ago, I was in a union job, thank goodness for unions, and I would often be going to Toronto and often be picked up by somebody in a cab to take me to the hotel for when I was going to meetings. And I always chatted with the cab drivers, and 95% of the cab drivers who picked me up were people who come from other countries, who had professional and trades qualifications from these countries. And they were saying, oh, I was, an engineer, I was a teacher, I was a doctor, all kinds of wonderful qualifications. And yet they never could get those qualifications recognized. And what they did is they said, I'm going to work as a cab driver because it's a okay salary, but I'm going to ensure that the opportunity which was denied to me, even though I was kind of told I was going to have this, I'm going to make sure my children have the ability to get those jobs. And as a teacher, you would see this in schools. Families would come to the school for parental parent-teacher interviews, and it always made me feel guilty as my family have lived here for many generations. I'm white, and I speak the language, and I want to make sure that every person who comes to Canada has the same opportunity that I have had. And I'd like to ask everybody to tell us what you will do. I know as an MP, you only have so much power, but you're in caucus and you can urge that these things move higher up the list of consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. This question will start with Gordon, Carl, Sarah, and finish with Maggie.
I'm going to give a bit of a conservative answer. I apologize ahead of time. Knowing this though, my mother came to the country from Germany after the war where everything was bombed to pieces, and she didn't know any English. But what she did do is she got a job that paid enough, and she was able to learn on the fly because she had to. But there were lots of jobs, there was opportunity. I think what we have now is a mismatch between our ability to provide resources of every kind, well-paying jobs, housing, everything, for the immigration rate that we have. We just can't handle it. So what we're doing is in effect, I heard this from a Liberal minister a couple of years ago. In effect, he said, when they were concerned about inflation coming up during COVID, what we'll do is we'll bring in a lot of people and that will suppress wages. And it was actually done on purpose. Okay, so when you have a lot of people, the wages go down, supply and demand. I think we need to rematch our ability of our economy to meet the demand of people and our infrastructure, houses, roads, hospital, everything, so that when people come here, they don't have to go begging, and that we don't have to feel guilty, and that everybody, that will work out for people. So we're gonna have to reduce the immigration rates, because we're not doing it. It's kind of our fault. We blew it. In terms of the certification of people, I know it's a big problem. My wife as a nurse has been involved in that. It's a big can of worms. It's not so easy. There are issues where when you say nurse and nurse, it means two completely different things in two different countries. So you can use the same word, it doesn't mean the same thing. So what we could do is get them to have the okay before they come, so that when they get here, they know. So get like a pre-clearing for that kind of an issue. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that, Gordon. That's a pretty good summation of the situation that we're looking at. We've had a reckless immigration policy. We've allowed an abundance of people to come here. It's a bad situation for the immigrant. You look at them, many people come to Canada, they have a dream. They want to work, they're hardworking, very hardworking. They're honest, they want to create something. They want to enjoy the same standard of living that we have. And they're willing to work for it. But the system lets them down. We've got different parties in Canada that are interested in seeing immigration for the wrong reasons. Whether it's industry, universities, maybe to build a political base. This shouldn't be happening. I think a balanced policy, similar to the lines that were previously discussed, would be to look at the labor market and see what it can employ. We should have an obligation, firstly, to employ any Canadian that wants a job should have the opportunity to work. They should not be displaced. And if there's other opportunities, new opportunities that crop up, new industries that want to employ people, then we can give them the opportunity to come to Canada and fill those positions. So it has to be a sensible approach. It has to be managed. It's not reasonable to expect the people of Canada to basically pay for all the mismanagement of an immigration system and to create human misery with, for political end. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the question, Heather. And I think you bring up a really great point, because regardless of how people have come here, there are many newcomers who have come with foreign credentials who are not necessarily, who have not been certified here, have their credentials recognized within the country. So there's a few different aspects here. One, I think, is prioritizing where some of those credentials lie and where we have particular gaps within our labor system. We know we have a gap in healthcare, we know we have a gap in trade. The Liberal government has proposed to inject basically $8,000 into a skilled trades apprenticeship, because we know that there is a gap within that industry. So we want to work to fill that. There's another program that's going to provide up to $15,000 to help upskill workers mid-career. Different countries have different ways of certifying a particular professional domain. And so we do have countries where internationally people can immigrate here and have their credentials immediately recognized. However, we need to expand that, knowing that we are now having people immigrate from a broader array of countries, and understanding what their education system is like, what their regulatory body is like, and helping to facilitate people to work through that process of having their credentials recognized, so that we can fill these essential gaps within our workforce and allow for workers who are coming here who are highly skilled to be able to participate meaningfully in our workforce. I believe that, again, in speaking with these cross-provincial breaking down of barriers in regards to the regulatory bodies, that if we could create a Canadian system that can recognize the education that people have received abroad, allow them to recertify and be certified under the regulatory bodies that are required for whichever domain they're looking at, that we can help to streamline that process and integrate them more quickly within our workforce here in Canada. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. It seems to be a recurring issue. I remember in 2011, it was still on the agenda. Now we're still talking about this
doesn't seem to have much progress with it. I mean, right now, we are a welcoming country. There's about, in backlogs, there's about 900,000 case unprocessed application. The delays are keeping family apart. And one in, you're talking about what those people are bringing to the community. 1 in 4 they work in the healthcare, making our system stronger. 1 in 5 are involved in business owners, small, medium businesses. They raise their family here. For the NDP is very important. Sorry about that. Okay. I apologize for that. Okay. Yeah. What I was going to talk about is today we have a great discussion from Premier Doug Ford. He mentioned that he has an agreement with Nova Scotia and New Brunswick about free trade and labor mobility within. I hope we can extend that to the federal level, and if that crisis, the tariffs bring us more together, it seems that that's the case. And I've been talking about that since the beginning of my campaign. We should take advantage of this threat, so to speak, to get together and make sure we come up with a better solution and minimize the regulation we have between the province and especially with the newcomers as well. Thank you.
I feel like based on our time schedule, this may be our last question from our audience.
If nobody else wants the mic, I'm going to pose a question. Thank you. So my question has to do with proportional representation. And I resist making a speech, but I invite all 4 candidates, please, to be as comprehensive in your answer and as eloquent as you can be. And if your party does not have a policy on proportional representation, try to explain why. But tell us your party's policy. Thank you.
Thank you. And this question, we will start with Carl, followed by Sarah, Mario, and then Gordon to complete this question.
Thank you. Yeah, that's an interesting question. As a libertarian, I would say it would be kind of nice if we did have some kind of proportional. Then we can have our voices in Parliament. As it stands, no one gets to hear us. So I'm an advocate. I think that would be a good idea. Of course, within the party system, we could have some MMP system, something else, even a blended approach where other voices get heard, other philosophies, other ideologies. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Elaine. I think this was a promise that was made by the prior Liberal government, and it is one that I frankly was disappointed that they were not able to fulfill for one reason or another. I believe that electoral reform is something that will help increase engagement of our general population within the electoral system. Whether it's proportional representation, a ranked ballot, some kind of mixed number proportional. There are many different models throughout the world that we can examine and see what's working well and what's not working so well. And this will require a lengthy process, I think, to determine what exactly will work for us. Canada is large geographically, and so even here in SDG, when we're looking at who we're going to be electing, this is a fairly large region. Now, if we're electing people based on proportional representation, how will we know that we are going to end up with somebody who will advocate for our riding? We might not. If we work with a ranked ballot system, we at least ensure that we have somebody from our riding, and that we're not tossing away our vote or splitting the vote in any way, which is, I think, for most of us here, a concern. If I could be candid about that. I know in Australia, what they basically have is for their House of Representatives, they have a ranked ballot system. And then what they do is for their Senate, they do proportional representation. So you get a bit of both worlds, and you ensure that you have party representation from across different parties. I think we have strength in bringing a diversity of voices to the table, generally speaking. And that when we can increase that, we, again, engage more people in that electoral process, which I think will have an overall benefit to Canadians. Thank you.
The NDP is really in favor of mixed proportional representation. I should point out the last 10 years, it's fair to say that the Liberal leader was one of the most on the left Liberal, and yeah, I'm sure he tried hard to get it through this agenda, and my firm belief is we will never get any type of proportional representation if we keep the ruling party, the Conservative and the Liberal in power. The only party that would make things done is the NDP. And this is, I'm not playing politics with that. I strongly believe that. And if you want this, you have to vote for NDP on April 28th. Thank you.
You probably know that everywhere in the world where there are democracies, where there are either ranked ballot or proportional representations, there is a Green Party who is a junior partner. And that's what we would like to be in Canada as well. We want to be that little borax out there getting the main parties to do things that they can say, well, we had to do it because the Greens made us do it. That's what we want to happen. As an example that I mentioned that we wouldn't have free trade if we would have had some form of this government, and that didn't really accurately represent the will of the people. Now, Sarah here is wonderful. She said this before, so she's been consistent. But the fact is, I've been asked by friends, why am I not with the Liberals? And the Liberals say often very good things, and then they often don't do the hard stuff. They do the easy stuff, legalize marijuana. That's pretty easy to do. You know, stopping the subsidies to the oil industry, that's actually hard. You know, bringing in some change voting system like Australia has is hard. I'll give you an example of Australia. I lived in Australia. My sister's there. You described their system extremely well. They also, when they had one mass murder back in the 90s in Tasmania, and we talk about gun laws. They took everybody's gun away except for farmers. Period. They've had 0 incidents since. And when you want to go hunting, you go to the police and you go get your rifle and you do your hunting, or that's great. So that they actually take things seriously. So we sort of wobble around and do half measures. So of course our party would be thrilled and definitely work with the NDP. And you may be right. You might be right, Mary. I don't know if the main guys will actually do it ever. I think that life is not predictable, and I think it will change. I think one day, even the Conservatives, they would have won the last 2 elections if they would have had proportional. Thank you.
We've now arrived at our closing comments from each of our candidates. They will have 5 minutes to sum up the message that they'd like to share with our audience today. We'll go from my left, right, so we'll be starting with Gordon, Carl, Sarah, and then finishing with Mary. Thank you.
I'm going to be asking for a little bit of participation toward the end, so please get ready for a little bit of audience participation. Okay, first thing I want to say, I've lived in the States and I've lived in Australia, which were both great experiences, but I love living here for the following reason. As we speak, the federal French debate is in play, and it was moved forward 2 hours because of a hockey game. And that is amazing. That's the kind of place you want to live, right? That would not happen. Secondly, I gotta admit, I live right on the edge of the riding, but I haven't been through here much. I do have friends in Winchester, which I visit a lot. I have gone to the winery in Alexandria, which was very good, by the way. But I've been super impressed being here. Like the vibe, the atmosphere, the people. It's been, quite frankly, a lot more fun than arguably Pierre. And it really has been terrific. So I want to say thank you very much. I really enjoyed myself. Next thing I want to move into is, I've been saying this green message multiple times. I've given the metaphor of the Titanic, and we need proportional representation. And I'm going to emphasize that again. I don't know what's happening in Carleton. There are 91 candidates. 91, because there's an organization called The Longest Vote, who is like, they're kind of PISSED off with the fact that this hasn't moved. So I hooray for them. They've done a really good job. In terms of the price, one of the things that's different about them, right now, the Liberals have suddenly become conservative and they're going to build a pipeline. And I understand why the appeal of that. But the fact is that means we're just stuck with the tar sands for even longer, and it needs to be shut down. The subsidies have to stop. They're not really economic. If you were to include the $200 billion to clean it up, what you're going to end up paying, because right now what they've done is the majors have all walked away because they know they're going to get stuck with the bill, so they're gone, bye-bye. The math doesn't work. Have an electrical grid, like Mario said, the NDP and I share that platform, that's the cost of the future. And that's an investment, because frankly, we have an economic war with the Americans, but you haven't seen anything yet until we have the climate war that's coming down the pipe. And I'm going to do a little bit of a teacher thing with my great art again. Have you anybody ever heard here of something called a blue ocean event? You've heard about it, right? So if you imagine the Arctic Ocean, it was covered with snow and ice until relatively recently. It's a giant air conditioner and keeps our planet's climate stable. What's happening is in this decade or the early 2030s, there will be a day where the entire ocean, instead of being white, is now going to be dark. It will be pure water and it will absorb heat. And instead of cooling the world, it's going to start heating the world. That will be what we call a tipping point. And that is when the poop is going to hit the fan. That's going to happen. We can act now before it happens. Just like with the trade war, this disaster with the US didn't have to happen if we would have listened to people with a little bit of foresight to act. So we're here to do things before they happen rather than panic after that. I don't want to speak anymore because, you know what, I'm tired, you're tired, you want to go see the hockey game. But I do have in Iroquois, an Iroquois prayer, which I learned in a wonderful book called Braiding Sweetgrass. Many of you know the book. It's wonderful if you haven't read it. It's by an Iroquois lady from upstate New York. And I'm going to do the prayer, and what you're going to do, if you would like to, is say, now our minds are one. Which obviously was an allusion to Donald Trump, right? Now our minds are one. We're all on, everybody here is on the same side, right? So, got it? Now our minds are one. Today we have gathered, and when we look upon the faces around us, we see the cycle of life continues. We have been given the duty to live in balance and harmony with each other and all living beings. So now we bring our minds together as one, as we give our greetings and our thanks to each other as people.
Now
our minds are one.
We are all thankful to our Mother, our Earth, for she gives us all we need for life. She supports our feet as we walk upon her. She gives us joy. She continues to care for us as she has from the beginning of time. To our Mother, we send thanksgiving, love, and respect.
Now our minds are one.
Thank you.
again, I want to thank everyone for the attendance tonight. It's been a good opportunity for all of us to introduce our platforms and our ideas. As you know, this election that's coming up is very important. We're looking to choose a government that's going to advocate for Canadians. Now, if you look at the events of the last 10 years, you can see that a lot of bad things have happened within our society. We went through a pandemic. We've run up a huge amount of debt, and now we're looking at a trade war. Canada has become a very dangerous place, and we're not in a good situation in Canada. We need a government that's going to act responsibly, with a cool head, and is going to advocate for Canadians in each and every instance. You have to look to your candidates and ask yourself, you know, is this person going to be there for me? Are they going to work for the betterment of everyone in society? If you can't, look at the party platforms and say that they're good for this country, you should not be choosing them on election day. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, everyone. Merci, Yawa. Unlike some of the gentlemen here today, this is my very first federal election race. It's my first time being a candidate for the Liberal Party, and this has been a roller coaster of the last few weeks. It's also our last debate, and so I'm just going to scrap my notes. And I know I have roughly 5 minutes here, so I just want to say to you that this community and this riding is so important to me. This is where I live, this is where I raise my family, it's where I work, it's where I spend my time, and I'm so devoted and dedicated to the people and this place. It's not easy running for federal politics. Anyone who says it is lying to you. But it is a great honor, and it's such a privilege to receive the messages of hope and care and love from each and every one of you. And I'll say, just a moment ago, I saw an email pop up from somebody saying they're in Germany right now, but they vote in Glengarry and they're rooting for me. So it's messages like that that keep us going. I know who I am at my core. I think many of you know who I am as well. And the reason why I chose to run for the Liberal Party was because I felt like my values aligned with those of the party. Not only that, I know that the impetus here is to really ensure that we are not in a situation where we have a government that looks a lot like what we're seeing in the United States. I don't want to see Pierre Poilievre become our Prime Minister. There is nothing in this world that would be more devastating to me at this point in time. And when Mark Carney stepped onto the stage for the Liberal government, it gave me hope that I hadn't felt in quite a while. No government is perfect, no party is perfect. But I know that I've got a strong voice, and sometimes I don't know when to stop using it. I will advocate for all of the things that I have said to you, and I know that I can do that within caucus. But I can't do that unless I'm elected. The people in this riding have a choice to make, and you have wonderful people who are here, and I really believe that the people, I've had such an honor to get to know each of you over the course of the last few weeks, over the last 4 debates that we've done. It's long, but we've shown a lot of respect for one another. What I can say is, it would be my absolute honor to serve this riding and to serve this country as your member of parliament. I will fight fiercely with grit and tenacity to get everything that I possibly can for this riding and the people of this riding. I hope that this weekend, as we enter our advanced polls, that you will vote for me, knowing that I will represent your voice, that you will know that most of the time, I will answer my phone when you call, and at the very least, I'll get back to you. I'll listen to your concerns, and I'll take those truly to heart with me back to Ottawa. I urge you this time, let us flip this riding from a conservative riding to a liberal riding. My God, we deserve it. If you like what you've heard, get out, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, This is an election that is more important than many that we have seen before. We cannot be weak in the face of the threats that we're facing from Donald Trump. We have a leader who is knowledgeable, who is ethical, and who can help bring us through the crises that we're facing. It would be my honor to serve you in that role. Please, on April 28th, vote good for SDG, because the future of Stormont, Dundas, Glengarry is good. Thank you.
Thank you. I will ask for a bit of indulgence because I'm gonna be to the book. I do have messages. I'm a guy that is really well prepared, and I take the opportunity, every opportunity I have to send a message and to make sure that our NDP platform is on the agenda. We need to support more Canadian content that reflects who we are as a country and share our story. The vast majority of Canadians, 78%, support funding for the CBC Radio-Canada. We had that discussion in Alexandria. New Democrats will always protect CBC Radio-Canada and support the growth of made in Canada content. The Conservative leader, Pierre Poilievre, planned to completely defund CBC. That means the end of the hockey night in Canada. And the NDP has a plan to fight soaring rents, and unlike the other ruling party, they don't talk about the national rent control and protect renters from implementing. We do have the national rent control. The NDP is needed to ensure progressive policy are on the table to protect workers and stand up for the public health care. A priority for the NDP include pushing for more health care, hiring more family doctor, nurses, a cap on prices on essentials, crack down on offshore tax havens. Liberal and conservative would eliminate the capital tax gain from, they would increase the tax rebate from 50% to 2/3. So that means they're gonna foregone revenue of 18 billion over 5 years. The NDP will invest that money to expand universal pharmacare and to pay for the cost of living budget lines. For the Labor Council, we support civil servants union advocating for the right to work from home, free bargaining at the table, no back to work legislation, no use of scab labor to ship jobs out of the country. Liberal Mark Carney planned to balance the operating budget would result in 43 billion in spending cuts within 3 years. Mr. Carney is not clear where he's going to get the finance this. That's what I've been asking a candidate, Sarah. That's good news that you're not going to touch your healthcare and the senior. But where are you going to get this 43 billion? That's huge amount. And that's my role as not yet the opposition, but as a party that opposed for now. If you don't want to see those cuts, it's important to vote for New Democrats. A plane needs a left wing to stay afloat. Thank you.
Yes.
I'd just like to thank you all for coming and being such a great audience and the great participation in our democratic process. It is so important. Get your kids, get your grandkids, get your neighbors to go out and vote. We have lots of opportunity to vote. There's starting on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then we have our voting day on the 28th of April. So please get out there and vote. Encourage everyone to vote. That is, let's try to get our voting to like at least 60-70%. You know,
Yeah.
that's a work in progress. Thank you very much to the candidates for answering our call. And thank you for Kathy Poirier coming out and helping me out with this today. So that we still have a few minutes left before our 8 o'clock deadline. So if you want to, stay and chat with each other or with the candidates, you're quite welcome to do so. Have a good evening.
Oh, that's fantastic.
You had, I was gonna be,